Hello, hello. My name is Brittany Otamaloy, Assistant Director of Graduate Student Services here in the college. I'm here to present with you, a student panel for graduate students to be able to share with you insights about being a student here in the college. Of course, we can't speak with every student in the college today, so I've invited a subgroup of folks who I think will give you a really good overview of what it's like to be here. I encourage you to reach out to them individually and ask any questions that come up as a result of hearing this session today. And if you ever would like to hear from other students, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'd be happy to make a connection for you. We'll start today with introductions. Brian, would you kick us off?
Yeah, glad to. So thanks, Brittany, and welcome to everybody. Welcome to the UW. My name is Brian Tousell, and I'm a fourth year doc student. So what that means is I've recently completed my qualifying exams, and now I'm moving into the dissertation phase of my program. I work with Daphne Blanca Dabak, and my focus is thinking about social studies classrooms as spaces to support multilingual immigrant youth. The other hat that I wear here at UW is I help to coordinate our English language learner endorsement program. So I work with pre-service and in-service teachers that are getting their Washington State endorsement in English language learners.
All right, so I'm assuming I'm gonna go next, right, Brittany? All right, great. I'm Corey Campbell. I'm also a fourth year doc student in Learning Sciences and Human Development. My advisor is Holly Schindler. I finished my comprehensive exams in the spring, or the qualifying exams, they're the same thing. And I'm moving on to writing my dissertation proposal now. My focus is really around parenting and especially with young children, and thinking about building emotion regulation in young children. And that is it.
Hi, y'all. My name is Dua Ka. My pronouns are they, them, their. I'm also okay with she, her, hers. And I'm a queer, non-binary Hmong student in multicultural ed. I'm a second year doctoral student. My advisor is Jenga Paris, and my study focuses on the intersection of race, gender, and sexual orientation among Asian American students. Right now, I'm still in my coursework, but hopefully in a few years, I get to start my dissertation soon. So, yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lamar Foster. I'm a fourth year PhD candidate. I have also finished my comprehensive exams. I've turned in my proposal, and I am headed towards data collection. Woohoo! I'm very excited. My dissertation is on how school leaders enact anti-racist social emotional learning initiatives. And so I use a few techniques to do that, such as interviews, organizations, observations, and I also use data science techniques such as machine learning text analysis to answer my research questions. Welcome to the UW.
Hi all, I am Nathaniel Hoster, Nathan Hostin. I'm in the special education department. I'm a fourth year doc student, like so many of us on this phone call. I am somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks away from starting my general exams. We all keep talking about them. So that sounds very exciting. Congratulations to all of you who've completed them. I'm a nervous wreck about them. Like I can't seem to sleep lately because I just keep thinking about them. But I study multi-tiered systems of support, specifically tier 1 and tier 2 social emotional learning supports for students of color. If you want to know more about that, feel free to contact me. My advisor is Carol Davis, and currently I work for the Kent School District as an MTSS coach.
Hi everyone, I'm Yuzhen Huang, and you can call me Angelina. I'm from Language Literacy and Cultures program, and my advisor is Daphne. Our program is in to facilitate and support students from different lingual and cultural backgrounds to learn together. And we also learn about diversity and inclusion as well. Thank you. Feel free to reach out to me.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine Moore. I am a third year doc student in multicultural ed. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and my advisor is Django Paris. As a third year doc student, I'm getting ready to meet one of our program wide milestones, which is Research and Inquiry Conference, and presenting there. And then later on throughout my third year, I will be preparing for my qualifying exams. In addition to my work as a student, like some of my assistantship work is serving as a research assistant with the Bank Center for Educational Justice, and also serving as a coach with the secondary teacher ed program, where I've also had the opportunity to teach some classes within that program as well. So looking forward to hopefully getting connected with a lot of you all who are going to be incoming students.
Hi everyone, my name is Seijin Kwak Tingwei. I'm not really sure what year I'm in, but I am currently supposed to be writing my dissertation. I'm also a mom, and our nanny had to leave early today, so little baby Gina will be joining us, and I'll be pulling the computer away from him pretty often. I'm in the multicultural ed program. I study kind of like institutional and practitioner agency and fostering positive environments for cross-racial relationships, and my dissertation's on an intervention for low-income students at the College of Engineering. I'm also a program manager at Riverways Educational Partnership, formerly known as Pipeline Project. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Our final panelist, Steph Salazar, will join us as we move through the session today. I'll share a little bit about them. Steph is a second-year master's student in leadership in higher education. They have just recently obtained a full-time position with Rainier Scholars, so that is why they're joining us a bit late today. So you'll hear insights from them soon enough. And also to share, I'm also an alum of the college. I pursued a master's degree in education policy, organizations, and leadership. So we will move on with sharing insights. I will start with questions, and we'll have 2 to 4 folks answer each question. If there's anyone that you see on screen that you want to know more from, please reach out to them, and I will be sure to share their email addresses with you. So first and foremost, what do you wish you knew in your first quarter as a graduate student in the college? Lamar, I'm picking you because you pointed at someone else.
Okay, great. Probably shouldn't have done that. So the question is, what do I wish I learned or knew my first quarter? So I feel like if I knew too much, I probably wouldn't pursue a doctorate. I wish I knew COVID was going to happen. That would have changed some things. But seriously, I think I wish I knew just some things that are a bit more basic. I think the way in which like journal articles are structured and how to read them and like these different sections and so some technical things such as that. I wish I knew early on, such as how to read a journal article, how to write a journal article. Some of those things I wish I knew really early on. I think would have helped me in the future. And then I wish I probably knew probably a bit more about the Pacific Northwest region. I think I've learned a lot as I've been here. But I think after like my second year, I started learning more, and I was like, man, I wish I had known this earlier, because now it's like I'm locked in, can't really go anywhere. So I'm like, oh, I can't go to this restaurant. But there's just a ton of of different cultures and different things to take advantage of here in Seattle, which I probably wish I knew early on. But as you guys come and things, get better, you'll be able to take advantage of those things. And so just take lots of pictures and send them to me.
Please jump in.
I can jump in. I wish I knew about our counseling sessions, like the therapy and things like that. When I first came here, I was in a very bad place. And so like my anxiety and depression was on all high, and I didn't know where to go because I was new to this campus. I was new to this state. And so it was really, like my advisor really helped me with that. He was like, did you know that like as a student, you get free counseling services, for like up to how many sessions? And I was like, oh, word? Like I didn't even know that, because I was so afraid to because I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. And so things like that was actually very helpful. But that was like halfway through the quarter already. So like my mental health was getting worse and worse. And so to be able to pick that up was actually like really great. But I wish I knew that earlier. And I wish that like I could have paid more attention to that and like the brochures or the advertisement, or maybe it wasn't as visible to me. But that's something that I wish I had known a lot earlier coming into the quarter.
One thing I wish I would have known more about, to kind of speak to Lamar's point, was about the cost of living in Seattle. Like prior to moving, I knew that Seattle was one of the more expensive cities in the nation, but I was relocating from Chicago. So I was used to, paying higher prices for rent, navigating a larger city. But when I came and I was like, why do Frosted Flakes cost this much? They don't cost this much in Illinois. I was just a little shocked. So even though I tried to be tactful and save, I was a teacher prior to entering into my PhD program, trying to save. Teachers only make so much, but at the same time, that's still it still was a little jarring. Just literally the cost of groceries, the cost of rent, housing options. That was definitely a challenge, and I'm really grateful to current doc students who are already further along in their program, who were willing to reach out to me and tell me about different programs to help folks access affordable housing in Seattle. But those are all big considerations. And if you're already coming in, you probably already started to grow acquainted with this. But I remember even like Professor Dr. Geneva Gay pulled me aside one day and was like, where do you get your groceries? And even put me on game to things like that. So it's just also about like living and in the city, and that being a big part of how you're able to navigate your program and sustain yourself. So also like not being afraid to reach out to folks and just be like, yeah, who has the best deals on produce, or where do you normally go to stock up on toilet paper, since that's a big thing right now. But even being willing to ask those questions and knowing that there are folks who can definitely help you figure out the systems within the College of Ed, but also just like living in Seattle or the Pacific Northwest more broadly.
I were to add one more thing. I wish that I knew how busy every other person in the College of Ed was. And knowing that now helps me take things less personally. If a professor is not getting back to my email, or if I get really critical feedback on a paper, like it helps me to remember that that professor was also grading 30 other papers and probably doesn't remember the critical feedback they gave me, or that my email just got lost in a sea of emails. So maybe keeping that as a strategy as you're moving forward to help you, I guess, depersonalize yourself from some of the not so great things that happen sometimes in academia.
Can I tag in here too? So Jasmine and Nathan have me remembering that in my first year, something clicked and I was like, oh, I didn't realize PhD life is kind of like freelance life. Like, I think about other programs and everything's sort of like a checklist and you go through and you do the steps, and instead there are milestones, right? But like you have to figure out how to assemble the projects and the knowledge, and a lot of people aren't going to be able to tell you like what's the right path. So I remember the first year kind of walking around like wishing somebody would like read my papers and tell me if it's any good. And then so much of it is like, okay, you got to find the people that have the time and attention, or like pull your other classmates to find out resources. The other resource I wish I'd known about right off the bat is the National Center for Faculty Diversity and Development, NCFDD. And they have amazing weekly newsletters, kind of like hacks for grad school. But we all get free accounts as UW students. And I learned about that a little bit later. And they get great advice that they send out every week, like in newsletters and stuff.
Awesome. That actually leads me into my next question. I'm wanting to ask, what strategies and resources did you access in order to find community, in order to find stability, and ultimately to be successful academically?
So for me, the number one thing that has gotten me through grad school and has got me funding like every aspect of my graduate experience has been just like the wealth of care and community, and also just like professional networking and information that I've gotten from my peers. So I would really highly encourage you to do that. And I know, you know, Lamar mentioned the Pacific Northwest and how hard it is to meet people and some of the cultural things. We're all going through, I mean, a lot of us aren't from here, so we're all kind of going through that together. And so for me, I really met people through going to OSDI events, going to GOMAP events, going, you know, talking to people in classes, seeing who people know, and then eventually, you know, you get to that other side where you're drinking and talking shit together, and like that's just so important and healing. So I would really encourage you to just get out there as much as you can, especially since like the first couple quarters, you might have like a lighter workload where you also have the capacity to do that networking. So yeah, so that was my experience, and that's what I would encourage anybody else to do too.
Yeah, so aid on that, sorry. Okay, thank you. So if you're an international student like me, you can also join the Phi Sister Organization at the UW, and you can make connections there to meet like friends or like upper classes, students from upper classes, and you can make friends and know more people from your countries or even other countries. And you can help each other there too.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the first quarter is definitely a lighter quarter, at least in learning sciences. Like you're taking your inquiry series, part 1, you're taking like one elective course and then like one 501 typically. And so it feels really light and it's like breezy, but that's a great time to build like social relationships. I moved from North Carolina, so across the country, and it was like I was ready to like meet everyone and get my life started on the West Coast. And so I think that first 10 weeks is a really great way to get to know people. I know it will be very different since everything will be online, but I would just encourage you to be courageous and reach out to folks. Like I met people and found my funding for my second and third years through the Associated Students of the College of Education, which is like a monthly meeting that we have. It's up November this year because of the election. So yeah, but just be courageous, reach out to folks, be social online in our like weird communities that we're gonna be building in this new way. So yeah.
Yeah, one thing I would add is so actually a couple of things. So if you enter your first quarter and you're like drowning and you're like, this is really tough, like you're gonna make it, and then you're gonna be like, man, first quarter was such a breeze because second quarter is so hard. And so you will learn to realize that you like this process, it definitely tests your ability. And so I just want to put that out there. And because it kind of gradually gets tougher, but then you tend to get better at it. That's even more than the reason why you need community, right? And so I look at community as far as like having university people. So you know, some of the people in my classes, some of the people who I met at GoMap, and some of this is crosses over. And then I have you know, people in the local community, people who don't know anything about PhD, masters, like they're just out in the community, and I love those folks. And I think it's important to develop connections with people in your local community, folks where you're not expected to talk about like, you know, some type of theory or whatever. You can just talk about the game or talk about, you know, something outside of academia. I think that's really important. And then also just kind of like that professional community, which I've found through joining graduate student councils of professional conferences, such as like the American Educational Research Association. I was on their graduate student council. I'm also part of the graduate student council of a smaller conference that's more niche to my department, which is the University Council for Educational Administration. And so through those networks, I've met people from many different universities. I have friends from the UT Austin, friends from Johns Hopkins, friends from all over the place, because I've been on these graduate student councils. And those friends tend to, you know, we become really close. We develop writing groups, and we work on papers together. And so but I would always, you know, suggest, you know, have your local community, your university community, your professional community, and don't forget to call your parents, your guardians, your aunts, your uncles, all those people. Don't forget about them.
Similar to what Sajan mentioned earlier, is like definitely tapping into resources like OSDI and GoMap. I know within the College of Ed, OSDI feels like our own GoMap. And I know we're throwing out a lot of acronyms, but like the Office of Student of Diversity and Inclusion. And that's really been like a second home to me within the College of Ed, which I've been super grateful for. It's been a safe haven, a place I can go when my blood sugar is low and I need some snacks. And also when I just need to be in community with folks, whether that means I need to vent about something that took place in one of my courses, or I can say, hey, I'm trying to host this event to help support you know, first gen folks get into grad school. Can you post this flyer for me? Can you put it in your listserv? So I'm super appreciative and grateful for that space. And also, like, don't be afraid to get connected with folks who are outside of the College of Ed. And I know this is going to look different. It's going to be challenging, you know, given this time. But honestly, some of the people in my life who I've met since, you know, starting school at UW and who are like chosen kin now are not within the College of Ed. Some of my closest friends are in the School of Social Work, and we met at GoMap events, and these are like my writers. When I need something, they're there, and we hold space for each other. We could go outside. We would visit a lot of different coffee shops throughout Seattle and have work sessions. And now we've transitioned to doing that via Zoom, and it's different, but like the love is still there, the support is still there, and I'm super grateful for that. Also, I know a group of my peers, we had this idea to create this a space that did not exist. Like, how can we get together with each other and have critical conversations about the work that we're doing, but trying to be, you know, knowing that we're in the university and in this institution, but not of it. And so we were able to reach out to a faculty member, Dr. Shanae Washington, who was like, I got you. I will be, you know, supervisors for you to do an independent study. And that's been an ongoing thing we've been doing for nearly 3 quarters now. So, you know, if there's a space that doesn't exist, like there are opportunities for you to create it. Last thing I wanted to share was just to speak to a point Lamar brought up, which was like building community outside of the university. For me, having left the classroom to come into grad school, I was really missing like working with youth and being in community with families and educators. And during one of my experiences coaching at a local middle school, I met this woman named Brenda Nelson. And it was wild because her name was like the same name as one of my godmothers. And I was like, oh, this is like kismet. And, you know, she really is like an auntie to me now. You know, we met and she helped me learn more about the school and my work there as a coach to my teacher candidates. But even greater than that, like, you know, she's invited me and my cousin who I live with in Seattle to join her family on holidays when we couldn't make it home to the Midwest, you know, to attend different events throughout community, and that has really helped me feel more at home in Seattle, when at first it was really difficult because I am, you know, deeply connected to my family, and sometimes FaceTimes and phone calls don't feel like enough. So feeling that connection with other folks outside of the institution has also been really vital to my overall experience too.
Okay, seeing no one else, I do want to refer you all to the student handbook. There is a subsection there that has all the acronyms that you might need to know about. So when you're hearing OSDI, when you're hearing GOMAP, FIUTS, ACE, that's just fluff. Take a look at that handbook, and that'll help to give you some of the vocabulary that you'll need to make it work here in the college. Another question that I want to bring to the table, how are you all managing your advisor relationship? Do you have any tips or tricks in terms of managing up, so to speak?
I came to UW because my advisor, one of the reasons I appreciated her immediately was how responsive she was. So like I knew that that relationship and that timeliness for me was like very important in being seen, but I know that there are other colleagues of mine that have not had that same timeliness. So we've definitely talked about it. So it's relying on what have you heard from your other peers in your program, people that have maybe been under that same advisor in the past, and what have they done? What like asking them about like the best ways to get their attention seem to work the most effectively. But yeah, it's hard. So just reach out to your fellow peers and classmates.
So I did my master's at a different institution, and my advisor there was like the mentorship that I needed. He wasn't giving it to me. He was a great scholar and he was well known, but like he was a terrible mentor. And so when Django hit me up to come to UW, like the way that he humanized me as an actual human, and not just like, oh, you know, the advisor under my belt, was actually very impactful. And he's actually the main reason why I actually came to UW in the first place. Your advisor is really gonna really play a big role in your career here. You know, they're going to introduce you to different resources, different folks, different communities. And so I really like that about my advisor. And like we have a close working relationship, and he checks in not just about how I'm doing academically, but how I'm doing like emotionally, you know, and mentally. And he makes sure that I'm okay. And I just really appreciate that. And I feel like if I had known that like having an advisor that's going to be so impactful was going to play a big role, like I would have never selected the advisor that I did in my master's program, because I just felt really neglected by him, you know. Because you know, Nathan mentioned that like, you know, folks are busy all the time, but my advisor was just like absent throughout my whole 2 years getting my master's. But with Django, like he checks in on me. He was like, how are you doing? You know, like just a one word, how are you doing? I'm just like, I'm good, you know, or like I'm stressed. And he was like, okay, like elaborate, how are you stressed? And so that was really impactful, and I really appreciated that.
I also wanted to say, like, if your like working style doesn't feel compatible with your advisor, like it's not a one and done deal. Like I've found a lot of mentorship outside of my advising relationships, and you know, I think like everybody's first instinct, or maybe my first instinct coming into grad school, was like I need to impress like the biggest names and the most famous people, and like that's cool, but also like they are probably busier and have more people hitting them up, so that might not be the most fruitful relationship. And for me, like it makes a bigger difference to find someone who's invested in you and who believes in you and who you know, understands what you want to accomplish and understands who you are as a person. That's going to be a much more valuable relationship than, you know, just having a really famous like baller advisor. And they're not like mutually exclusive, some, you know, but just to think about it beyond just, you know, like the branding and the name.
Yeah, I think about your advisor is going to be like a long-term relationship, right? And so it pays off to learn what's the communication style, what's going to work with that particular person, and then also the reciprocity of any relationship. Like, I think it's so easy to get into the habit of like, I need something from my advisor, I need something, and then also like what interest are you exploring together, or what kind of projects are they working on that they could use some help on. So that's another way to think about it that I think we're not always used to as students. But the other advice that I heard that I really liked is like, yeah, you have one academic advisor, but then you have countless mentors. And in some ways that mentorship lines up, and then sometimes there's other mentors you're going to be checking in with and getting advice from.
Yeah, I just want to add real quick. This is something Nathan brought up earlier about like not taking things personal sometimes, and so I think like especially like if you're coming to UW and you kind of drink the Kool-Aid and you're like, whoa, I'm at like a top 10 university. This is like the #1 university in the Pacific Northwest, all that other stuff. And then you see these advisors and you put them on this pedestal. First off, don't do that. Second, just realize that they're human. They have a lot of things going on and they're not mind readers. And so you have to just ask questions. So when Brian's saying stuff as far as like, you need to understand their communication style, literally ask, what's the best mode of communication with you? Like, do you prefer email? Do you prefer like, can we exchange numbers? Like, so you just ask. As far as like expectations, like my first quarter, I sat down with my advisor. I said, these are kind of the expectations I have for this year. These are the things I want to get done in my tenure here at UW. And I said, I would really like to be done in 4 years, but 5 years would be great, and so what can I do within those 5 years to make myself marketable for this type of job that I want to have once graduating? And if you don't know what kind of job you want, that's fine, but at least kind of have some type of idea of what you want to do and communicate those expectations.
For sure. Anything else to add here? Okay. So I'd like for you to talk a little bit about what class feels like. And so one element that I think is important to talk through is your classes have some diversity in them, in that there are both master's students and doctoral students in that class, in your classroom spaces. Sometimes a class that is designed for students in ed policy will be chock full of teachers, right? What does that experience feel like? Where are there some pluses, and maybe what challenges are there in that environment as well?
Well, this is less about like who's in the class with you and more like going back to what Jasmine was talking about with like the variety of types of learning spaces that you can take advantage of. And so some of the richest learning for me has been like joining a research team, and then you register for independent credits. And then you also have if you do it multiple quarters, that also helps you build out that community of people that you get to know a little bit better. And usually it's a smaller group. So I think really taking like a kind of charge and like, what is your learning going to look like, and what would you like to study about, and which professors could be like independent study folks, or are they working on other projects that aren't in the course catalog. So that's just one thing I would throw out there.
Piggybacking off of Brian too, taking courses outside of your college is also very helpful, right? Like some of my most favorite courses were from like gender women studies. And so, yeah, like I always recommend people to, like, I know everybody has like their own requirements for like their college, but definitely go outside of the comfort zone. That way, like Jasmine said, you connect with other students from different departments, from different fields, from different disciplines, and it really enriches your own research, because now you come in with more holistic view, and you have more things to supplement your actual research, and that's always makes it more enriching. Another thing too is like always connect with your classmates. Like they're in the same boat as you, like they have different perspective on things. Like talk to them, reach out to them, do study sessions with them, and it can really create lifelong friendships. So some of my closest people here I've met in classrooms, And like, I wouldn't have known them otherwise. So I really appreciate that.
My experience at the UW, this is my first time in like diverse classrooms in terms of like programs. In my undergrad, there were no graduate programs. And then when I got my master's, we were in a cohort model and I only took classes with people who were teachers learning how to be teachers. And so this was the first time that I could go into the classroom and be like, you are working on your master's in education, and you are working on this, and you're from another college within the college. And one thing that was useful for me that I actually didn't realize until, or start to think about until last year was that is going to impact the type of work or even the quality of work that people are producing, or even the type of thinking that happens in your classroom. And more specifically, like I took a policy implementation class in global health, I think, last year. And I was in a group with 2 doctoral students and then two students who were taking this class to work in policy. And we're making like policy briefs. And I took that on as like a theoretical exercise, as something I took it on as kind of meta, because that is what my program is training me to do. While the policy students are like, we need to know how to do this really, really, really well, because we're going to be doing this for our job. And recognizing that was really useful for me, so that I could up the quality of my work, or in some cases, so that I can recognize that somebody might not be producing, let's say, the sort of quality that I'm looking for in another class that I think might be more relevant to my interest. So recognizing where people are coming in into the classes really, really helped me.
So I haven't taken courses. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I haven't taken coursework in a while, but a few things from a distance that I remember is use the final projects to explore your own learning and develop your own learning. So use that time to follow whatever rabbit holes that you would like to follow. And then remember the sources you use, because that could save a lot of time down the line. Like if you need to, write a literature review for your proposal or for an exam, you have that like wealth of resources that all the work that you've already done. So that's one piece of advice. The other thing is to, in addition to what everyone said about like the courses you pick, if you're thinking about a career in teaching or in higher ed, I would also think about, who are some role models in terms of like pedagogy and like culture setting within a classroom, especially on a historically white campus for the students of color who are watching this. Like, classrooms feel so different depending on who is facilitating that classroom. So also thinking about, who are some models that you'd like to learn from, and see, what are some best practices that you can pick up, if you're going to have a TA position or if you want to teach in the future. Those are some of the things that I'd think about.
So for me, in my first quarter, it was quite a little bit challenging for me, because as an international student, I was not that used to speak loud, like speak in public and speak in a new class, especially not my native language. And it was quite interesting to take courses with like first year master students like me, first year student, doctoral student, second year doctoral student. And it was interesting but challenging, because I feel like they have so many interesting and mindful and thoughtful feedbacks at that time, and I was not so nervous to talk with them. But a tip for you all is you can try to start your small talk in your small group and talk to the person next to you, and then you will gain more strength and you will be more brave to speak more in class. Yeah, and you'll find you're learning and growing with them.
One other thing I wanted to add was, so in one quarter, I can't even remember when it was, I took a class that was with all master's students. and I was the only PhD student. And that instructor was like, well, since you're a PhD student, is there something that you want to work on in particular? So I didn't have to do the same assignments as the master students. And we agreed on something as like a capstone for that course that was more relevant to future steps. So you can have those dialogues with instructors, especially if you're kind of like misplaced. And if you feel like maybe the assignment doesn't really contribute to your next milestone, they'll typically work with you to like make it more relevant to your learning. So be open and honest about what is next for you and where you want to head.
Thank you. That was all such amazing feedback. So many good tips. Is there anything that you just feel like students need to know?
Chill out. You'll get further if you're just like a little bit more relaxed and don't take every interaction so seriously. You know, nothing is that high stakes. And if you feel like you're flailing and you don't feel like you're progressing, that's fine too. Like maybe that just is a sign that you need to pivot to something else. So yeah, and I'm speaking that to myself currently as well.
Something that I keep telling myself over and over and over again as I wait for scheduling to line up for general exams is that anticipation for the thing is often worse than the actual thing. And that is like really what I'm feeling and really what I'm trying to remember for like my other milestones, like prospective candidacy or RNI, is that the thing is actually less bad than our mind makes it up to be. So just remember that if you're encountering some anxiety or dread over finals or dread over a milestone.
Don't let imposter syndrome get to you. You were selected to be in this university. Your advisor specifically chose you for a reason because they believed in you, they believe in your work, they believe in your future. So don't feel like you don't belong here. And this is especially heightened for Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian American, Pacific Islander students, because so often like we're told that we're only here because of affirmative action, and like that's not true. We're here because we belong here. Don't ever let anybody make you feel like you have to doubt yourself. Like there's gonna be bumps along the way. There's gonna be times where you can be frustrated, but it doesn't mean that you don't belong here. It doesn't mean that the space, isn't for you. The university, like it has a history with racism structurally, but you can still be here, you can still challenge it, and you can have a community who's going to support you. So don't ever let imposter syndrome get to you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like the imposter syndrome is definitely real, but it's also a lie, which is crazy, right? It's very paradoxical in that way. I think there's so many different forces and messages, even some of them internal, some of them external, telling you that you don't belong, that this place isn't for you. And the reality is, like, this structure wouldn't be here if it wasn't for people of color, straight up, and so this land is our land, like not in the way that you learned it back in elementary school, but where you're allowed to be here, you belong here, and if you have to, like, create your own lane. I think community is important. Be in arms, and don't, like, be humble, but be confident as well at the same time. Like, I know when I first came in, there are some cats who were very, trying to size people up. Don't do that. Be humble, be ready to work, and the right people will come alongside you. You can hit me up anytime, because I feel like even after I graduate from here, I'm not one of those type of people to be like, oh, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to continue building each other up, whether we're in the same place or not. And so always feel free to reach out.
To build off that, I'm thinking about anytime, but especially right now, as we continue to live with the realities of COVID-19 and what it looks like in this very dire way in the United States in particular, as we continue to live through like global uprisings demanding for justice for Black lives and for Indigenous sovereignty and so many other things, like collective care is necessary. Like it's important, it's vital. And the belief that you can come into grad school or any other space and just go it alone, you can try it. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be damaging on your mental health, your physical well-being, and it's not necessary. And I know that so much of American culture is individualistic, and that is really contrary to what we need to take care of ourselves and to sustain each other and be in community. So like Lamar said, don't hesitate to reach out. Someone brought it up earlier, I think it might have been you, Brian, that you might hit people up and they might not respond, you know, in a nice, polite 48-hour window, especially under the conditions that we're living through right now. But like, people are going to get back with you. They're going to respond. If they don't, like another door is going to open, another, email is going to come through where people are going to want to be in your corner and going to want to support you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to the folks who are here in our Brady Bunch panel right now, or just other folks that you get connected with. And worst come to worst, if someone doesn't have capacity to support you, hopefully they're going to be in a position to say like, I can't look out for you right now, but I can put you on with someone who will. And so I know I definitely want to make a commitment to that, especially as we just continue to live through, you know, what people love to put in emails, these unprecedented times, but like they call for us to really be committed to collective and community care right now.
Yeah, I want to add, time flies really fast, especially in the quarter system, but then you will remember to enjoy it, and then you'll survive from it. And then when you look back at it, you'll realize, wow, you really make it and you did a great job.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you all for all of your insights over this last chunk of time. Of course, we can't ask every question today. So I really do encourage you students to reach out to this Brady Bunch panel and any other folks that you meet along the journey. Meeting folks is going to look different. Get into it. We have to, you know? So all of these folks' email addresses are available on the resource page. So feel free to look there and reach out to them. If you see them in classes, join them for a conversation. Could be something good to learn from them, right? If you hear from me, definitely answer those emails. And if you ever need anything, I'm a resource to you, as are these people here today. So we'll close there, and I wish you all a great start to your quarter.